Hello everyone, I'm Matt Boersma and my presentation is titled Water on Mars. In this presentation I plan to introduce some of the evidence that water once existed or may still exist on Mars, and I will examine some of the evidence collected in the past as well as some of the current expeditions to gather evidence. One of the earliest examples of evidence for water on the Martian surface was observed by Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli. He produced the map shown on this slide by observing the planet through a telescope between 1877 and 1888. Schiaparelli noticed dark lines on the surface of the planet, which he called canali. Schiaparelli also observed changes in the darkened areas on the map over time, which he described by saying that Mars had a vast system of vegetation that changed over the seasons, similar to what happens on Earth. Schiaparelli's observations of Mars sparked very optimistic explanations of life on the Martian surface and inspired numerous examples of science fiction which depicted an advanced Martian society. One of the best examples is Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, in which he imagined that Martians were advanced enough around the turn of the century to launch ships to Earth and invade the planet. Unfortunately, as the technology of optical telescopes advanced in the early 20th century, the Mars canali theory was dissolved when it was discovered that they were mere optical illusions. As for the vegetation theory, the dark, changing spots were revealed to be only dust deposited by windstorms on Mars. No real canals or vegetation existed on the surface, despite how badly science fiction writers wish they did. The image in this slide is a representation of what Schiaparelli may have saw when he turned his telescopes toward Mars. Notice that some imagination must have been used when his maps were being created. Around 1930, telescopes were advanced enough to be able to pick out some of the smaller features on Mars. At this time, a region in the northern part of Mars was discovered called the Vestitas Borealis that lies around 8 kilometers below the average Martian elevation. This region is much smoother than the rest of Mars, and many scientists now believe that it held an ancient Martian ocean. The claim of a Martian ocean was bolstered in 1974 when NASA's Viking mission detected evidence of fluvial valleys and channels in Mars's northern hemisphere, and then again in 1997 when NASA's Pathfinder mission detected Martian floodplains. The evidence for a water system on Mars was mounting, and scientists were forced to come up with new theories of the planet's history. So where did the water go? Although Mars may have had an ocean at one point, it certainly isn't there anymore. One explanation is that early in Mars's history, soon after the planet formed, the core of the planet was still hot enough to support a liquid ocean, and probably an atmosphere as well. Since the core of Mars is much smaller than Earth's, the planet has cooled down faster, and at some point the oceans began to freeze. If Mars had been bigger, it would have had enough gravity to hold on to its atmosphere, but the low gravity allowed it to escape into space. Mars's frozen oceans sublimated into water vapor over millions of years, and most of the water vapor escaped as well. The only water left on the planet is frozen below the surface and permeated into the crust, or concentrated in the polar ice caps where it is prevented from sublimating by a layer of solid carbon dioxide. The image shown here clearly shows the northern ice cap of Mars, which is nearly 75% water ice. So, in conclusion, many people have been fascinated by the possibility of water on Mars throughout history, and lots of evidence points to the existence of water at some point. However, no more liquid water exists on the surface. If you have any questions about this video, please direct them to my email. Thank you.